Never think that you know it all. Always be in the learning mode.
You got the right conditioning at a very early stage, and this is what really worked for you.
If you've chosen something in your life and you believe your heart and soul into it, give your 101% to it.
Three things that works in the hospitality industry and three things that are an absolute no-no.
Whatever you do, you have to keep your customer in the center.
What are the three aspects that Signum Hotels provide to its customer, which is different and unique?
It's a pleasure to be here, and I think I'm pretty fortunate to speak to you. Your platform, very well articulated. I think the questions were just brilliant, gave me a lot of introspection, and I'm genuinely thankful to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Mohsinaa. Welcome back to Self-Discovery Podcast, a space where we uncover the mindset, beliefs, and inner evolution of leaders who are redefining what true leadership looks like from the inside out. On today's episode of Self-Discovery Podcast, we are joined by Mehul Sharma, the dynamic founder and CEO of Signum Hotels and Resorts Private Limited, a rapidly growing global brand managing 18 upper and upper upscale hotels across India, Dubai, and Jordan, and more than 1,100 service apartments in the UK and Dubai. With over 20 years of rich leadership experience in the hospitality industry, Mehul has built his expertise through pivotal roles at some of the world's most respected hotel groups. He has served as Director of Sales and Marketing at Taj Hotels, Director of Business Development at the Claridges Hotels and Resorts, and has held key sales leadership positions with IHCL, ITC Hotels, and the InterContinental Hotels Group. Today, he uses this strong foundation to scale Signum Hotels with a sharp focus on strategic growth, innovation, and exceptional guest experiences. His journey reflects a powerful blend of operational excellence, customer centricity, and visionary leadership, making him an inspiring voice in global hospitality. Hi, Mehul. Welcome to Self-Discovery Podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Mohsinaa, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I think I'm pretty fortunate to speak to you, having seen your profile and the work which you've done in the past and the people you've interacted with. I think it's an extremely humbling experience for me, and grateful to you for having me over. So it's a pleasure to speak to you on this podcast.
Mehul, please tell me that you started in leadership in the hospitality industry. How did you shift your mindset from an employee in a leadership position to starting something on your own? Because it's a big risk. And now looking back, I can see that you have done really well and you're expanding really well. But at that time, when you started, what was the thought process?
The thought process actually starts off when I was a kid. I was just about 14, 15 years old, and my father was in the army. He used to come to Delhi for the Republic Day parade, and we used to go to hotels. And that's when I got really inspired by this amazing life of a hotelier. I always want, and I remember when I was about 14, 15, going to the Moria Sheraton, and probably we had a meal at the Bukhara, and I was like, I want to work in such an environment because you probably see the best. You eat the best food, you meeting the best people. So that's the thought process which started off when I was a kid. Then, of course, I passed my 12th, and then I cleared my National Defense Academy also. Then I cleared my hotel management. Then I went to Pusa. Then I got picked up with one of the chains as a management trainee. And the entire journey continued as an employee in various chains which you've mentioned. But you know what? Coming from a background of an army officer, so you are pretty risk takers in life. So you want to try out, you want to know that this is one life. You've got to give your best. You've got to feel the exposure, take risks, of course, calculated, explore the entrepreneurial journey. So this was always there in me that, listen, let me take the plunge and see what does it mean to be an entrepreneur? What does it mean when you do not have a backing of a large brand like an IHCL or a Shangri-La? What does it mean when I actually stand up in the market and just say, well, I'm Mehul Sharma and so and so. So it looks very glamorous, rosy when you see things from outside. But of course, things are very different. Hence, this was always the bug of entrepreneurship was always inside me. And finally, in 2017, 18, I think it really hit me that, listen, I think I've done about 20 years. I think it's high time that I now start something on my own. And that's when I took the plunge. I said, let me just take the plunge. So when you essentially as an entrepreneur take the plunge And now, at the hindsight, I think it should be much more calculative
Mhm.
because suddenly I realized that there is something called a COVID, which also happens. There are some
Yeah.
natural disasters which happens, something beyond your control, and you
Mhm.
got to be prepared for all that stuff. When I took the plunge, I did not anticipate such a tough journey, although I cherish every moment of it. But I think that's when I thought that what does it mean to stand alone and build something from scratch and then scale it up? So that's a little story of how I built up. Because in my genes, hospitality ran, in
Mhm.
my blood, hospitality runs. But the idea was to start on my own, and that's when I took the plunge with bare minimum, absolutely from scratch, and launched the company in 2019. So that's a little bit of the story. So again, it's because of the fact that you've been exposed to that kind of life, having come from an army background, you are more of risk taker. So it was always there. That's the whole thought process behind this.
Awesome. You got the right conditioning at a very early stage, and this is what really worked for you growing
Right.
up.
Right.
Mehul, you have worked for the biggest names in the hospitality, okay? So, three lessons before you started your entrepreneurial journey that you took from these experiences.
You know what? One of my biggest learnings came from Taj. That's the maximum time which I spent is attention to detail. God lies in detail. The most important thing is that your customer is king. Whatever you do, I mean, Taj is the epitome of the service standard which they've set. That is what was built in me, and that's where my ecosystem works. That whatever you do, you have to keep your customer in the center. I mean, like I read a bit about a person called Simon Sinek, and he's
Mhm.
always mentioned that always keep your main customer in focus. So that's what I learned in Taj. I learned about very strong, detailed SOPs and processes, which is extremely important in a hotel company to work. Other thing which I learned is to take care of both your external and internal customers, your employees, which is
Mhm.
extremely important. So that's what I learned when I was growing up, my early days of my career. So I think, in a nutshell, I would say understanding the entire process of running the hotel, backed with a very strong SOPs, the operating procedures, the brand standards, understanding cash flows. Because
Yeah.
if you do not understand cash flow and people in hotel, I mean, of course, in every other businesses, but hotel businesses, the most important aspect is people, your interpersonal skills, and how well are you good in terms of managing your finances. So all this stuff was taught to me, and I learned it throughout my journey, and hence implementing it. That's what my learning has been with the chains which I worked for.
You have been in the hospitality industry and you're running, and you have seen that, customer satisfaction is the most. You said customer is the king. So, what are the three aspects that Signum Hotels provide to its customer, which is different and unique to their experience than other places that they go to?
So, you know what? When I was starting off, I went back to the drawing board in terms of why, what, and how,
Mhm.
essentially. Why is we all know we're running hotels? How we know how to run hotels? What is the main idea behind the fact
Essence.
is extremely important. So
Mhm.
the moment you have these answers in place, then you start building your brand inside out. So
Mhm.
when we were creating a brand, we sat down on the drawing board and we came out with 25 key USPs, or why us, something which we continue to follow as a philosophy as to why should somebody stay with us? Why should somebody work for us? Why should somebody believe in us? Why should somebody go with us? So those important aspects were built, and the entire communication platform and the hotels were built around that. For example, the tagline which we use are experiential stays. Our idea is very simple: connect to the roots,
Mhm.
hire local talent, groom them, work extremely close to the nature in terms of sustainability, use the best practices to ensure that you give it to the nature earth, to the mother earth, have as much as homegrown materials in your hotel, which means we have our own kitchen garden, we try to produce our own stuff.
Produce.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the whole idea. Use as much nature and natural things where we can. We try to install solar panels and a couple of other things. Keep the technology at the center also, because hence we developed our own tech platform called Stayforce. People who are traveling are extremely tech savvy, yet they wish to be absolutely grounded. So
Mhm.
we use the best combination of the local flavors, local food, local boutiques. We create something called a Signum boutiques in each hotel, in which we pick up best from that particular region in terms of spices or local artifacts and place it there. I'll give you an example. In rooms, we do dry the medicinal plants for that particular region and put them as a part of the wall paintings. The idea is to connect to the nature. So when you
Yeah.
enter a room, you'll see certain medicinal plants, they've been dried and kept. So you know exactly what is the medicinal value of that and how is it that it's inspiring the local stay.
Mhm.
Local dishes, those dishes are inspired from the local cuisines. People are being trained, which we pick up from the local community because it's extremely important to give it back to the community as well. The materials being used for the construction, we work in line to ensure that the carbon emission is absolutely intact. We try our best to do our water treatments, the entire recycling, refurbishment, all those practices, yet keeping the roots in place. So there are about 20, 25 key features which our hotels and apartments has, which
Mhm.
connects you to the roots, yet keeping the best technology in place and giving a wholesome experience to the people, which essentially is affordable yet luxury.
I feel that it's very deeply rooted at sense of sustainability and also the warmth that you're giving to the community as a whole. You know, there's some kind of connect that you are creating amongst the clients or the people who are
Correct.
staying in the hotel to the local environment. Mehul, I want to ask you, okay, you have been in leadership position, you are still an entrepreneur right now. What are the three
Correct.
aspects of leadership mindset that has worked for you per se?
The most important aspect which has worked for me is that you need to understand the nuts and bolts of your business extremely well. So, my take is that if you wish to start a business, it's essential that you spend about 10, 15, 20 years in understanding the entire processes and then probably pursue the business in that career itself because the chances of one becoming successful is much more higher. The other thing which worked for me is that connect with the junior most link in the organization because that is an extremely important key when it comes to the success of your brand. The other thing which I learned is a direct connect with your end users, the customers, clients. The word of mouth is a very, very strong tool. You don't have to spend on anything else. Just do your job extremely well and your customers become your loyal members and they market your product themselves.
Mhm.
Have a very strong financial plan in place. This is something which I learned the hard way because we went through COVID and ups and downs and all that stuff. When you start a business, I think it's extremely important to have a very well laid down blueprint for the cash flow for next 5 years, which is what I learned the hard way. Have good mentors who give you the right advice. It could be the toughest advice, it could be on your face, but it's extremely important for somebody to tell you that you're wrong and this will
Mhm.
go wrong. So I've been extremely fortunate again that I've got the best critique. They've always told me, yet accept mistakes humbly. I think that's something which I learned also. Then the other thing which I learned is never think that you know it all. Always be in the learning mode. Always, every day, one should be on the learning mode. If I'm speaking to you, I'm learning. If I'm speaking to somebody in the office, I'm learning. If I'm speaking to my customers, I'm learning. Learn, make notes, practice, implement. So, all these things worked very well. And this is something which I learned during my entire entrepreneurship journey. Taking notes, following your notes, making mistakes, writing it down, but ensuring you don't repeat it again. It's important to make mistakes. It's important to fail.
Right.
Extremely important to fail. It's extremely important to make mistakes. But what was also important is that when you make mistakes, don't repeat it again. And what's the kind of learning which you got from that? So I think, yeah, that's been the foundation for me as such.
Mehul, you are in the hospitality industry and you know it in and out. Tell me three things that works in the hospitality industry and three things that are an absolute no-no.
Like any other industry, what works very well in the hospitality is trust. You got to
Mhm.
be genuine. When you speak to your customer, it has to be genuine warm. You can't
Mhm.
just be have a facade of talking to people and genuinely not feel for it. Hospitality industry is for people who genuinely care for people, who believe that they'd love to help people, who believe in serving people, who believe in the fact that if you really care for your people, I think that's the most important ingredient when it comes to hospitality. The thing which don't work essentially in hospitality is something when you need to understand the nuts and bolts, you need to understand the functioning of the entire industry. If you don't know your job in hospitality and if you do not care well enough for your people, please do not be in the industry. If you do not understand the way the tech is being embodied and coming into the hospitality industry, I think embracing the new changes is extremely important. If you do not embrace and if you are very rigid, industry is not for you because it's ever evolving, ever changing. It needs people who are extremely flexible in nature. It needs people who are adaptive, who are intuitive, who are believes in the future, because this is what the industry is all about. But if you remain stuck to time, if you do not probably relate to the Gen Z or the new influencers which are coming in the market, because that's typically an industry also has certain mindset of people which come from an old school of thought and people who have to change. So you've got to be very adaptive in nature. You've got to be more proactive. You've got to have an extremely strong sense of listening, probably less of speaking. I think that's one trait which is an extremely important. Although I think I'm quite a failure at that. I speak more than I listen. So that's something which I need to learn. But I think extremely important that one should be very receptive of that. And out of the box thinking, somebody who's not creative enough, industry is not for you, because you need to create wow moment for your
Yes.
guests. And wow moments are always created out of the box. It is impromptu. It's not defined that I have to do this only. An excellent moment for a guest, which he remembers for a lifetime, does not necessarily has to come from money. It comes from your gestures. It comes from the little small action which you do for the guests. So I think in all of these, everything puts in place. So you've got to be very flexible. You've got to see all these things. I think that works. And being rigid, not being able to change is something which is a complete no as far as this industry is concerned.
Right. So you have spoken about being an entrepreneur and
Right.
not going on a straight line, because entrepreneurship is not a straight line. There are ups and downs there.
Straight lines in medicine is means you're dead, right?
Yeah,
Essentially.
absolutely.
So our life is just ups and downs, and that's about
Absolutely.
it.
Can you tell me one consistent factor that you follow in your life? One consistency, no matter how your, business is, your life is, okay, this is something that gives you peace, fulfillment, and you just follow it as a ritual.
Perseverance, I don't give up at all. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I would have faced thousands rejections, but I don't give up. Every day when
Right.
I go back to sleep, and if I've had the worst possible day, I still know I will get up the next day and I'll fight it out. I'm extremely gritty in nature. And as an entrepreneur, there are certain traits which you can't, which is extremely common. If you see the stories of, or you hear stories of Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Larry Ellison, Rin or Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Ma, all of these guys, they've got certain traits which are very common. And these are
Mm-hmm.
traits which is sometimes inbuilt, sometimes you take over. But I think the most important trait is to show up every day.
Right.
To improve every single day from the day before is the most important trait. I'm not here to compete against you. I'm not here to compete against anybody else. I'm up to compete against what I did yesterday and how I can improve on that. So I think to answer your question, perseverance, a lot of hard work, integrity, honesty, these are traits which is common to all. The most important trait for an entrepreneur is not to give up, because you will just be bombarded and have such days when you feel like everything is just gone.
Yeah.
But that's the time when people, I know of a lot of people who give up also. I know a lot of people, which they're right, they must be doing extremely well in something else which they do. If you've chosen something in your life and you believe your heart and soul into it, give your 101% to it. There is no
Right.
reason, and provided you know your technical stuff, you know your job, all that. It's not that I just want to be in hotels and I don't know my job. So it's important for me to be technically extremely sound and
Yeah.
then not to give up. Perseverance,
Amazing.
grit, determination, honesty, integrity, hard work, some of the key factors.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you so much.
Mehul.
It's nice to speak to somebody who's so experienced and having spoken to the best of the leaders, of course. But I think it's important because it also means you're discovering yourself. I think your questions are extremely relevant to my life. It gives me a true sense of reflection of whatever I've achieved. It gives me a sense of accomplishment to come on certain platforms and share my experiences with people. The idea is to inspire a lot of people.
Absolutely.
The idea is through your platform is to encourage people to not lose hope. The world is a beautiful place. Give your best, enjoy your life. If you've taken up something, make sure you go for it. There is no reason why you cannot be successful in life if you don't go for it. So I think your platform, very well articulated. I think the questions were just brilliant. Gave me a lot of introspection, and I'm genuinely thankful to you.